Woohoo! Well, it's Monday today. Yesterday was Sunday. I wasn't able to record, but we're moving on, and it's a big day because we're moving on to Cursive. Um, so they're going to use a phased approach. Transition to Cursive is what we're going to do today. Now, the thing about Cursive is all Cursive is essentially joined writing. You can use the Safari again. I like my other pens. Just this is sort of it's very standard equipment, so I thought I'd use that. And the blue ink, I think, is good for this for our purposes. Um, but the cursive is joined writing. That's really what it is. And they'll talk about a little bit about that as we go on. They give the history, which is nice. Um, but the the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a serif, which is a little line that is off the main stroke. And what that does is that allows us, those are kind of like reaction points. Those are our joining points. Cursive is just joined writing, and it is going to, excuse me, give us little handles to the next letter. That's our joining part. Uh, Kind of interesting there, huh? So let's go ahead and begin. You can certainly read all this, and I do suggest, my apologies for the cough. Let's have a little coffee before we get started. I'll burn the 2 minutes rambling, and then we'll get right to it. We're going to go over once again, as they said, since it's our first time through, uh, is trace the letters. So it's the same M, just with the little bloops. You don't actually have to make that sound every time. Bloop. Didn't like that. Flew that. Something for me to watch. Again, not going to get all negative about it, but I do look at what I do. And I hope to do it in the spirit of correction, of revision. Um, like some countries have that with the math. It's like you get it wrong, go back and get it right, revise it, review, look at it again. The X, now this is closer to the X I'm used to. Though it is nice to make it sort of crisp because you can get very woo, woo. I've got a lot of math papers like that with craziness is kind of interesting doing that. See how, that last stroke that people tend to do sometimes and will flourish in their, especially in their signature. Falling into it. Just reminds me to take a little more care there until I'm doing that correctly. And correctly, why I say specifically correctly, maybe it matches the model, but more, I don't like that. I find it makes it unclear. So I'm giving myself the authority to say, I mean, I agree. So I would say I agree with the authorities that that's wrong. Now, one thing I find about the R is the serif. If you're not careful, if one is not careful, um, you kind of make this weird Y where your serif becomes as big as the loop on your R. Something to be aware of. Um, Even here, it's a kind of a little bit of a wonky letter, I think. So I try to make it clear. Okay, we're just staging transition. Those serifs might be a little uh, crisp. Ooh, here we go now. We're hitting the big time. We are doing our first joins. And here's a trick. Not a trick, a technique part of it. When joining, keep the diagonal straight. Again, we're trying to get away from all that kind of loopiness where the join just becomes another. another hump. Uh, so that becomes a crisp delineator, or loopy, straight. We're loopy, we're straight. Not great. N and M, I think, it's interesting that they start here because that's, I think, one of the more difficult ones because of that. It becomes a loopy Meyer. I wish I were a loopy Meyer wiener. Ooh, see, don't like that. That one I'll start over again because we need to work on that. Though, look, I started with no serif. Basically, I just did a turn up. Which can look really chopped and weird. Here we have the exit serifs. For the A, that's the one on the back side, the one you're coming out of the letter. A little off on that, maybe a little crisp on that one. So we'll just watch it. A little crisp on that one too. There we go. The difference there, if you notice, their dot is a little hash mark, which can make sense because coloring a dot sometimes can be a bit unwieldy, I would say. That's pretty much a judgment call one, I think. I wish my loopy K looked better. The straight attack K seems very crisp. Seems to be in a crisp today. I wonder what's up with that. It's the serifs. And I think as we move on, right cramp. Take care of that. Loosen it up. Tap, 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 tap. That's where I'm at right there. And I think since we've done the full suite of letters now in straight italic print, I'm looking at a little bit of cleanup. Get a little less sloppy. Tighten up with it. But don't tighten up your hand. Don't go crazy with the. It says, "Oh, that's easier than the dot," and it kind of looks cool. Don't go crazy with it. That one came up a bit high. Okay, on to some joins. Again, they want it sort of crisp, sort of straight. See, I'm going to stop using that word today. Maybe there's some news on CRISPR. At least I don't use something like poggers. That's just a generational thing. I mean, I get that it means, so, whoa, dude, sign of approval. Something is awesome, good, cool, whatever. Bad. But I don't know. I don't really know the origin of poggers. It's a video game related, I think. It's kind of funny. People like, you don't, video games. It's like, I got an Atari 2600, did a lot of Apple II, grew up in, arcades. Cinematronics was always kind of one of my favorite ones. The vector stuff. They seemed like they were like very engineery dudes. I thought they made some really cool stuff. And games back then, man, what they could do with such small spaces. Like Rip Off, one of the Cinematronics one, and I think this is pretty common other stuff, maybe Tail Gunner and some of the others, had no CPU. It was all done on discrete logic chips. How cool is that? It's a great game too. I kind of miss those sorts of games. I know it seems like it's realistic or quasi-realistic simulation now. Um, it can still be cartoony, but still you'd get a kind of a quasi-realism to it. Where that was tended to be, I mean, they tried to give some representation, but it was um, the ships were very abstract lines. You're the triangle, the Omega race, or something like that. Uh, Asteroids. I'm not saying the other games aren't cool and valuable. Just saying, it had its a certain aesthetic. It was stripped down and raw and very action based. Got a little serif. See, that's the serif and the Z, which I do kind of like anyway. I think it denotes it there. And I like to use the little hashy cross. Now, after doing all that, sometimes kind of funny after doing a more complex letter. Sometimes just doing a straight, downstroke with a serif on it, but just doing a downstroke. So L, if you notice, has an exit stroke, but not really an entry stroke. Serif, I'm sorry, which I guess is a type of stroke. Ooh, I felt pretty good about that, M. The underachiever in me, of course, once I notice that, I'll immediately fall apart because that's the kind of guy I am. The tiny little serif. Don't tell anybody my serifs are small. Little wiggly there. Again, that's falling back into the habit of this, which I think judicious curve could be okay, but that's without the. I did that without the serif. With the serif, it just looks more Z-like to me anyway. And then one with that's a little bit big. So I'm gonna go ahead and correct that, especially since I'm off program. There we go. Okay, into some joins. Again, straight. They're really that's I think why the arrow. Oh, sorry, they probably want me to do that there too. Okay, I didn't put a serif on it. I just went for it. See, and it's a little confusing. That's okay. That's going to happen during your regular writing as well. It's just going to be part of it for a bit. I mean, forever, probably. But that's the human way. Pay to play the human way. Poor Devo. All right. Let's go home. Okay, here we go. Ooh, that got a little out of control. That was a loss of focus, I guarantee you. Guarantee. Okay, now here we got to take that serif right up. Then I would go back at the end of that and cross the Z if I'm going to do that. Serif. Ooh, that one came out real bad. See, now what they just talked about, your joins need to be straight. That join was not straight. Oh, that was all over the place because I was up in my head about it. Gonna let it go. I'm not gonna practice if not that mistake. I'm not gonna practice that. I want to revise, but I don't want to practice that mistake. P. That's a pretty radical flag there. Yep, I should lift the pen. Should go straight in. Gotta have sound effects. once wrote a fan mail to Dane Davis about the original Matrix movie because I think he won the Oscar for that, and people were so into the visuals they didn't get that how truly awesome the sound design in that was. I mean, it was insane. It was just incredible. All right, we're on to some joins. And he wrote me back with all kinds of details, which was really nice. That's an interesting one because you're up into it and then you're basically reversing it. But it happens with a lot of them, N and M and stuff like that. So Chris, it just feels different. Notice that that's a little. They made that a little swoopier, sharp entrance or sharp. So they actually do those. I'm going to use the word crisp, and I think it's to help it really get. It's all about separation. Where you get to join, but then your letter actually starts. So it doesn't become mush. So you can really declare. Ooh, that's all. I was so busy trying to get sharp with that, crisp with that, that I went really just off the road with it. It's okay. That's part of practicing. And there, see again, they're using a little more of a loop there. Maybe because it's such a linear letter, I can see that. Oop, a jot, is that two or a dot, or just one? A jot or a dot? Jot this down. I guess that's all right. Well, we're at 17 and a half minutes, but the thing is, we're doing 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, though honestly, we're hitting 20 minutes slot, and we do go over, but that's a single sheet, so I say we leave it there, and then we're going to start the caps next. Wonderful. We're on our way. We're on our way. So great. Thanks for stopping. We'll do this again tomorrow.